Sounds good. Thank you, Maria. And thank you, Eric, so much for a great presentation.
Yeah. Thank you, Lana. I'm looking forward to yours too. Yeah, Lana is an excellent presenter, and we were really fortunate to have you come to DR as well. If you remember, it was
Yeah,
about a year ago.
absolutely, absolutely. That was a great day indeed.
Well, I'm gonna check this out as always. Thank you, Lana. See you guys. Thank you, everyone, for attending. Ciao.
Thank you. So Lana, just before you share your screen, I want to introduce you officially and let everybody
Sure.
know just a few housekeeping rules before we begin. So if you can stop sharing your screen just for a minute, Lana.
Sure. Hold on just a sec.
I just want to remind everyone that we are recording this call. So if you are a teacher or a student, please keep your camera switched off unless you want to be seen by the World Wide Web. So it's great to have all of our teachers from Dubai English Speaking College here with us today. Deaf Careers is a careers education program. Yes, I am going to plug it. I'm really proud of it. I know everyone here at Dubai English Speaking College is very proud. We've got Curtin University Dubai joining with us today. I want to give a shout out to all the students at Curtin University. I want to give a shout out to all the LDR school students and the Hartfield International School students and students across the UAE, and of course, parents and professionals joining us today. We are welcoming Lana Ayash, who's going to be talking to us about the university application to US universities. Lana is joining us today from Education USA, and she's going to give us her 5 steps to studying in the US. Lana, as we are talking through your process, just a question that I'd like to keep at the forefront of our conversation and maybe bring it up in the Q&A. And I encourage everyone to use that chat box, keep those reactions going, give Lana some loving as we're talking through her presentation. And Lana, I know that right now with the pandemic, we do have a lot of concern from our parents about letting our children travel abroad to the US. The pandemic isn't making things easier. Students still really, really want to go and study in the American universities. Of course they do. I mean, living in the US and studying in the US is an incredible cultural experience, an incredible experience for anyone wanting to do it. But maybe we could talk about some of the things that you've noticed this year through the pandemic. And for any parents or teachers listening into this call, maybe some tips at the end of your presentation about things they should be aware of if their children will be traveling over to the US. Without further ado, I'm going to welcome Lana officially and turn it over to you, Lana.
Thank you so much, Maria. I'm so happy to be here today, and I'm so happy to see many familiar faces. And also, if you may allow me, I just want to say hi to Patrick and Taki. Patrick, I haven't seen you for a long time, but I do remember when I worked at HCT Fujairah, how I used to bring my students for tours at the Meridian, and you were generous enough to guide us and talk about the, business and also give them motivation. So I just wanted to say that got me excited to see you. Hello, everyone. My name is Lana Ayash. I'm the education advisor at the US Consulate in Dubai, and I'm again very happy to be here with all of you today. Today, I will be talking to you about different topics. I will give you information about who we are as Education USA, and I'll talk about the virtual services that we're doing right now given the pandemic. I'll also explain the US education system and what steps students and counselors need to be aware of and take in order to ensure that students do have successful admission into US universities. And we'll touch quickly on some updates and with questions and answers. So just to give you an idea, Education USA is a US Department of State global network. We have over 400 advising centers in 175 countries around the world. In the UAE, we have 2 advising centers, certified advising centers by the Education and Cultural Affairs, again at the US State Department, and those are located at the US Embassy in Abu Dhabi and the US Consulate in Dubai. We work to promote higher education in the US by providing students with comprehensive, accurate, and unbiased information about studying in the US. By that, I mean we do not work to promote a specific program or educational institution, but we rather work with all the accredited universities and colleges in the US. We work with students through providing them with different information that would be very helpful to them in their journey. And we also work with different with the parents and the high school counselors. We work with the UAE government, mainly the Ministry of Education. And on the other side, we work with all the 4,000 plus accredited colleges and universities in the US. We do that through the different webinars that we do, the email communication that we have with students, counselors, and again, the UAE government and the US HEIs, through our WhatsApp group that many of the high school counselors are actually on. Phone calls, and recently we are about to introduce our Education USA app, where students and counselors will get the opportunity to chat with us, have a live chat with us, and learn and ask any questions they have, and get the opportunity to learn about what the latest trends in US education. I'll talk quickly about the US education system. The US, as many of you know, is home to many of the world's top universities. If we look at the QS ranking, which is what the Ministry of Education here in the UAE follows, 50 of the 200 top universities are actually in the United States. And all those universities and others, and the other ones as well, provide world-class education and superior facilities for students to join. The types of institutions that are offered include community colleges or institutions that offer associate degree, and that's a 2-year associate degree. Bachelor degrees, of course, as you know, that's the 4-year degree, masters, PhDs, and some provide focused disciplinaries and specific disciplinary. The US education system, again, has over 4,000 accredited colleges and universities. Those vary when it comes to the size of the institution. Some institutions have about 2,000 students, and some would have about 40,000 students. Some of them are located in, of course, small cities, and some are located in big cities. Given that the US is a continent, you can imagine that those will be different when it comes to nature, and when it comes to the geographic location, and what the cities also offer. And some of those are, of course, in urban or rural areas. Just to quickly touch on the 3 main kinds of institutions, and this is similar to many countries around the world. The 3 main ones include community colleges or associate degrees, and those are 2-year degrees where students go attend those community colleges. They're usually smaller when it comes to classroom size. Tuition is less for students, and usually students usually go and do their 2 years, and what we call the 2+2 model, where they can do 2 years at a community college, and then later on they can transfer to a 4-year institution. Those 4 years could be a public university, which is the second kind of or type of HEIs. The public universities are subsidized by state taxpayers. For residents of that particular state, tuition will be less, and that's usually for American students. And the public universities are known to be very advanced and provide leading research facilities and research opportunities. When it comes to the third kind or third type, that would be the private universities. And private universities are usually funded by tuition, grants, and gifts. The tuition will be the same, whether the student is an international student from that particular state or from across the US. Usually they are small inside and could be more focused when it comes to particular discipline or area. The question that many of you might ask, or many of the students actually ask, is why do students study in the US? The answer for that is very simple. The reason for that is the quality, choice, and diversity, value, and flexibility. And I'll touch on each one of these points right now. When it comes to quality, like I said, the US offers world-class facilities that include libraries, labs, computers, and definitely leading research facilities. There are many outstanding programs in all educational levels, and also diversity, and it's very diverse and innovative when it comes to the programs that are offered for both the undergrad and graduate level. I'll add to that the highly qualified lecturers that are, at those universities. When it comes to choice and diversity, like I said earlier, the US has over 4,000 universities, and those are located at different geographic locations. So there is a best fit for every student. There are so many accredited options for students to choose from when it comes to majors and when it comes to the institution. And there is also the environmental factor where students get to go to a place that really fits their needs when it comes to specific things like, the weather, and if they are into a specific sport or a certain hobby, that they can continue with that. So this is very important to keep in mind that the options that are available and the variety of diversity also makes sure that there is a place for every student who wishes to study in the US. When it comes to value, again, the diversity, which is the US education system is known for, provides students with a range of tuition options and living cost expenses. So students can choose to live in a small city, and where tuition and life, not tuition, but actually living expenses will be lower than it would be if they live at a big city. Financial aid opportunities are available at the university, and we also always advise students to look at those options and see what the universities are offering when it comes to those opportunities, and know when to apply for financial aid opportunities, because some institutions in the US accept financial aid applications along with the actual application to the university, and others rather wait until a student is accepted and then for them to submit their financial aid application. So just look at all the opportunities that are available out there and know in advance before actually submitting the applications. And then the last value that students do have, as you may know, is called the optional practical training, or what's referred to as OPT, or sometimes referred to as CPT. And CPT is the curricular practical training. And those are opportunities for students to remain in the US and gain actual professional experience, either upon their graduation or for CPT during also their studies as well. The difference is students who do study STEM majors, science, technology, engineering, and math, are eligible for CPT, and the duration for that is 24 months. But all the other majors are eligible for OPT, and the duration for that is 12 months. Students students may also be granted conditional acceptance, and that's if they are missing one of the requirements. So universities can accept them based on the fact that they are going to meet that final requirement during their first semester. They can transfer from one major to another. They can transfer from one institution to another, and of course that gives them the flexibility in case they feel like this is not the right major for them. So let's talk briefly, and I'm sorry if I'm being rushing into the presentation because I know I have limited time, so I just want to make sure that I am giving you the opportunity to ask questions at the end. The steps to successful admission, I just want to say briefly that when it comes to applying to a US university, it is indeed a process that students need to keep in mind, that they need to put the time and effort and focus into that. And we always advise students to start early, plan ahead, and understand the application process very well. So the two things that we always emphasize on is the knowledge and the timeline, how the process works, what is required, when do I need, what do I need to submit, and then the timeline of when do I need to submit my application and follow the deadlines per the university. In a nutshell, there are 5 steps to a successful admission into a US university, and those include researching options, financing studies, completing applications, applying for a student visa, and finally preparing for departure. When it comes to researching options, it's very important to know that students at this stage are going to be overwhelmed with so much information. Like I said, the options are so many. There are so many options out there. So we always advise students to look at 6 to 8 universities that really best that fit their needs academically, number one, and then environment wise. We advise students to start 12 to 18 months prior to US study, and then gather information through looking at the websites of those universities, and then so they can find the best fit for them. There are different resources available to students. Those include Education USA as a resource. Of course, the colleges' websites where they can get information about the majors and the institution and what services are available to international students, which is always very important for them to know. And of course, attend college fairs and talking also to their high school counselors. Those are extremely important points to keep in mind, because the high school counselors are actually the go-to person when it comes to what the lead that students need in order to make an informed decision, and also for parents as well. Always make sure that students do go to an accredited university. As a US Department of State program or network, we only work with accredited universities and colleges. Accreditation means that those universities have gone through a process where it's been confirmed that they are to provide quality education to the students. So that's very important, that they know that those universities are actually accredited. Okay. Sorry. One of the main things that I always advise students to do, and that's to create a worksheet that will help them be organized throughout the process. This worksheet is any Excel sheet that they create that fits the programs that they're looking to study, and that will help them shortlist their options to those 6 to 8 universities. So instead of going back to the different websites, they can compile the information that they need to have access to in one sheet. And this sheet can be shared with the high school counselors and with their parents as well. And that will help them make an informed decision at the end. So this is one of the things that I always ask my students to always keep in order to in order to ensure that they are successful in that. Sorry, this keeps getting stuck. Excuse me. All right, so when it comes to the different options, we advise students to shortlist their options by choosing some safety, realistic, and dream universities. Safety universities are where students match the upper end of successful applicants, so that means they will be accepted into those universities. Realistic, where they match the median of successful applicants, and then if we take that up a notch, that would be dream universities, where students will match the end of successful applicants. Diversifying the options is a very good idea. We always advise from, let's say, the 8 universities that they aspire to apply to 2 dreams, 2 realistic, and then 4 safety universities. The second step would be, so right now, all we've done was research. We haven't applied to any universities. We have just looked at the website and we've done thorough research to know which options are good for the students. Then we look at the question of how this will be, the studies and the cost of attendance will be financed. So that includes not just the tuition, but also the travel, the books, and living expenses and dorms and all of that. For Emirati students, usually they go through, they apply to a scholarship from one of the scholarship granting institutions in the UAE, and there are about 10 of them. And then international students usually are either family funded or they apply to financial aid through the university itself. The third step would be the very straightforward one, and that's pretty much about completing the application, providing the universities with the admission criteria that they're looking for, and submitting the application on time. We always advise students to submit the application prior to the deadline. Like give yourself at least 3-4 days before the deadline, just to make sure that your application is going to get there on time. And students are not, sometimes some things come up like, technical issues or any other issues that will stop students from submitting their application on time. So doing it, advising them to do it 4 to 5 days in advance will help them secure admission. The general requirements include, of course, the application form, the transcripts for high school, usually the last 4 years of high school, the standardized testing, the language proficiency testing, and the US accepts the TOEFL and the IELTS and some other language proficiency tests as well. They look at the reasoning tests sometimes if SAT or ACT are required. Many universities, because of the pandemic, are waiving that requirement, but if it's required, students need to submit it. They ask for 2 recommendation letters, one from a high school counselor and one from a teacher, and we always advise students to keep a good relationship with the high school counselor so they can write a recommendation letter on their behalf, highlighting their strengths and successes, personal statement, and then for UAE students, the MSAT. After a student submits their application and some of those universities gets back to them, a student needs to confirm with only one university that they are accepting that. And the universities will send them a form called the I-20 form, and that's a proof of accepting them. The I-20 will state the major and will state the starting date. Students can start the application for visa online, and then they can choose to come to the either the US Embassy in Abu Dhabi or the US Consulate in Dubai for an interview. And finally, students will come to the US, to Education USA, and we will give them what we call the pre-departure orientation. Pre-departure orientations are sessions where the advisors, along with colleagues from the visa section and Department of Homeland Security, will be there to give detailed information about what to do prior to your studies, prior to the travel date, the day of when they go to the port of entry, and then after they land in the US, in order to make sure that they have a successful academic experience and life experience as well. Okay. There are different videos that we'll be happy to share with you that talk about students studying in the US and their experience, and that would be good to share with students as well. And finally, I want to say that because of the pandemic, many universities are now doing virtual tours because many students are not able to travel in person to check out those universities. Thank you so much. And I'm sorry if I've gone over time. There's so much information, but I'm happy to take questions if you have any.
Thank you so
Maria,
much.
over.
Yes, thank you, thank you. Please, so if you stop sharing your screen, then we can see you, Lana.
Sure. Okay.
That was an incredible talk. Thank you so much for offering that talk to us. I know that I mean, I have so many questions coming through. I'm just looking at the chat box. I know we've left everyone with lots of food for thought. I want to put my parent hat on. So considering that I'm a parent of a young person who wants to be going to the US and study, there's a lot of concerns right now with travel and restrictions and visas. Is there anything that you've seen at your end that you think, you know what, pay attention to these things, keep your eye on the news? What kind of tips can you offer parents listening to this call and our graduating students listening to this call?
Thank you, Maria. That's a great question. The advice I would give the students and the parents is just to keep making sure that they are up to date with what is happening in that particular state and that particular university. From my talks with students, and I know that parents are somewhat concerned about students traveling, but the students themselves are very eager to go, and I do understand why, because part of the experience is being there, being at a dorm, and being with their classmates and professors. Some of the universities in the US have decided to go virtual, and some of them are doing in-person classes. So it's very important for students to know what the institution is actually, what plan the institution has decided on, and what kind of support is there, especially for the international students. This becomes very handy at any time, but mainly during the pandemic. What kind of resources and what kind of support is there for international students should they need it during this time? I know for a fact that one of my students actually decided to go to the dorm, although some of her classes are virtual, or most of them are virtual, but she really wanted to live that experience, and she was okay with doing like PCR every like 3-4 days just to ensure that she can go to the cafeteria and she can go to her classes. So this is, I believe, a decision that both parents and the students need to make. But at the same time, like I said, be as informed as you can be during this time by looking at what's happening in that particular state, what's happening at that particular university, and also what kind of support you can receive as an international student. You're on mute, Maria.
Welcome to the world of digital. Suresh Balaram is saying, big thank you to you, Ms. Lana. The recording will be on the UAE Careers Community, Suresh, in the next few weeks. He's also asking, can parents and students consult with Education USA on a regular basis? I know that you said you're not connected to a specific institute, but can parents and students reach out to you for support on a personal level?
Yes, we definitely welcome them, and that's why I actually put my email in the chat box for hopefully for the advisors to have. And if you have any questions, please do email me. I will be happy to work with you and provide guidance. On that, I want to say that we are currently teleworking, so we're working mainly from home. So we're not doing one-on-one meetings at the advising centers like we usually do, but we're happy to do a Zoom or communicate via email or phone calls.
Thank you so much, Lana. And for anybody wanting, Lana's email is ayashL@state.gov. That is in the chat box. Thank you, Lana. Thank you, everyone. I want to give a plug and a shout out to our students at Dubai English Speaking College. We've got some goodies today. We've got some bags, some mugs, and some incredible t-shirts. If you are anywhere near the hub today, you want to pop into the hub, tell me that you were on Lana Ayash's talk, USA Education, and you can win your favorite prize. Thank you, Lana, for joining us.
Thank
and
you.
I want to give everyone a couple of minutes before our next incredible speaker joins us. We're going to be talking about if Plan A crumbles, what is Plan B? And that is going to be one of our incredible talks with Patrick Antaki, who I know is online right now. Thank you, Lana. Thank you for being with us.